The Golf Biz with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew. Management, marketing, myths, and morons. Hope we make you smile.
Welcome to the Golf Biz. I'm Joe Dahlstrom with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew, where our one and only goal is to make you smile as we share our stories of owning, operating, and marketing golf courses all over America. Drew, welcome, brother.
What's up, Joe? Mikey, how's everything in sunny Palm Beach?
Glad to be here, man. The sun is shining, the balls are flying, baby.
Very cool. Mikey, I like the hat. Little chick on it, whatever. What is that exactly?
It's a Bad Birdie, new brand out there. A couple guys started in grandma's garage, you know, like the American dream, dude.
Did you just make that up, or is that actually true?
Rocking it on our podcast, baby.
I know that's actually the company. I've heard of it before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's do our birdies and bogeys. No pun intended. Drew, well, let's get it going.
Oh, man, the birdie here is that the days are finally getting longer. No, it's been amazing. It's nice now that we got a little more sunlight, not only because we can get more golfers, more people out to enjoy this immaculate weather we've been having, but also, when I'm getting home, it's not dark. I'm not leaving to go to work in the dark, coming home in the dark. That's always a weird feeling. It means spring and summer are right around the corner. Bogey is that we're so busy. I really haven't gotten to get out there and golf too much. Not that I had much of a game to begin with, but it is definitely not improving with me not playing.
Well, today, though.
Yeah, I'm going today, so we'll see how that goes.
And next week, you can share how you did.
Yeah. Maybe.
Mikey, birdie and bogey, brother.
Yeah, not many bugs going on here other than I laid a few shekels on the Chiefs, bro. That was a money gone proposition right there. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I bet against the GOAT and came up on the losing end. Birdies, baby. Birdies all day here in South Florida. It's the only place in America you're actually seeking the shade. You're looking for shade here. It's 86. Sun is blazing, and people are definitely having a ball.
Very cool. Sure. Well, my birdie is this shirt. Check it out. My wife is trying to make me cool, which I think is going to be impossible. But it's not a pajama top. It's a Peter Millar. It has a little cashmere blend in it. They're not a sponsor. I paid pretty much full price. But the bogey is the same as Mikey. I was the moron that convinced him that there's no way that they could stop Mahomes, and Brady was over the hill. So I think I was double wrong on that one.
I did hear you say a few times last week that Mahomes gets a look in his eye and you can't stop him from scoring. Well, I think the Bucs proved that is possible.
Dude, I eat it. Dude, I take full responsibility for that retarded bet. And I actually have not made a bet in 15 years. I just decided to do it against Tom Brady. So I'm not so sure that's not a double bogey.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Episode 13, Paradigm Principle, the daily operational leadership. It's a must to maximize success.
Oh, yeah.
So this is something that is probably one of the most important principles in our entire company. I think it's one that is totally overlooked in the golf business, and I think it's overlooked in business itself. And why we use the word daily operational leadership is that people look at Steve Jobs and Tim Cook and these guys as amazing leaders, which they are, right? But those are the ones leading the vision, the culture, and the macro big picture thing. But when you get down to the daily operation, which makes and breaks your business and the guest experience, it's the daily leadership that really makes a difference.
Right. It's like piggybacking off the sports we were just talking about. If you look at it like a baseball team, the baseball team has a manager. That is the guy steering the ship. He's got the vision for the team. He handles all the big picture stuff. And then you've got your coach, your assistant coach, the guys who are hanging out with the players, who are in there doing drills with the players, who are kind of the go-to guys. And those are the definite leaders in the sense that, they're in the trenches with the players more. Same thing in a business. You've got the leaders that are big picture, steering, looking for the new directions to go or how to continue onward. And then you've got people who are working down on the entry level with everybody, being right beside them, picking everybody up as they fall down or teaching them anything they need to teach them. And if you don't have any sort of leaders on the ground, then you're just going to have a bullpen full of people that don't really know what to do. They're going to give like basic effort. And, it's something that kids nowadays, right? People my age, I had friends that even said it. They said, well, I only get paid minimum wage, so I'm going to give minimum effort. But if you have leaders in there with them, they're going to be able to bring out the best in them and help them grow and earn more money.
Absolutely. Mikey, I've always complimented you as being an amazing daily operational leader. I've also commented on your lack of skills as an administrative manager. That definitely is not your thing. But, what have you seen throughout the years of, you leading the team to go ahead and provide an amazing experience? Because when we rebranded Palm Beach National, it was kind of a vision that, we had together, and I kind of took the lead on that. But somebody had to execute it. And so tell us about kind of like what you've learned throughout the years about being an operational leader.
Absolutely, Joey. And what makes you and I and such a dynamic team is the fact that you're such a great strategist. You can actually forecast in the future, and I'm way more of the tactician that likes to jump into the middle of things and get it done and really lead by example. I think that this last Super Bowl is a perfect indication of actually leadership. The Bucs clearly had a way better game plan and execution, and everybody there looked like they were way more hungry to win. Plus, you'll notice that they actually did all the little things right. And so to actually take a leadership role in the small things that add up to actually the big picture is really what matters. And that's both, from the ground level at the guest service area to in the golf shop to your food and beverage operation, to actually be able to, one, lead by example and actually not be afraid to get into the middle of it. Number two, actually know that you're pretty good at it and actually teach how that you can create it. And then just to go ahead and actually embrace others. One, you applaud the good, you applaud the good action that actually takes place, clear direction.
What you were talking about is perfect. It's it's not just when people think of leadership or management, it's watching everything and just stepping in to correct the bad behavior. But really, and we talked about it a little bit with the millennial episode a while back, but actually giving praise is probably about 3 or 4 times more important. Because when somebody goes home from work, I'm sure you guys can think of it too. It's so easy to hold on to the bad, but it's way easier to hold on to the good. If you give somebody some praise, you give them a thumbs up, a high five, and you have to kind of tell them, correct behavior. You can do the correcting behavior in a way that's not negative, but the praise is always going to be praise. You can't really give someone an attaboy and be a dick about it.
Right, exactly.
So it's great to make sure you mix that in, and it means a whole lot more when you're rubbing shoulders with them all throughout the day. You're in the golf shop, or like Mikey said, you're out down in the cart barn, or you're on the first tee, you're on the golf course shaking it up with everybody. And when you do that side by side with everybody on your team, it's a lot more authentic. They know that you're invested. They've seen that you do it, so they know that it's coming from a place of genuine understanding instead of some, big bad manager just kind of lording over them, lecturing them, telling them what to do.
Absolutely. And on that note too, never use a but. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, you did amazing there, but leave the but out. You can actually share later what they could do a little bit different, but keep it as a compliment to make them feel good, because everybody waits for the but. When the but comes in, they know that their inflation's just about to get deflated.
Yeah, and they almost don't even listen. So you could say, hey, that was amazing, but, and then it's not even a bad thing you followed up with, but they've tuned out. They hear but, and they just know they're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go a little bit more down and dirty on this too, and what makes it different, because it is a paradigm principle, right? And, I noticed this 20 years ago, right? And I think it is especially in the golf business, but I'm sure it's in every business, right? People, the more they move up and they become, higher level managers, they get less engaged with the daily operation, right? They go to an office, they look at a spreadsheet or report that they don't really understand. And, we have people doing it. We don't really need them to do that. And they become totally disengaged. They think that the more they move up, more people work for them rather than they work for more people. So what we're really saying is that, our goal and what we do, and I think that we do it really well, is that every day that anybody walks in, there's somebody that is making sure that the first tee is running smooth, that people are getting paired up correctly, that the phones are getting answered correctly, and they're not just they're doing it, right? They're in the middle of it, like you shared. They're the shining example, right? They're the ones that are checking with the LOD on 4-hole times, on 8-hole times, turn times, whatever it is, right? They're the ones making sure the beverage cart has everything, the food and beverage, the guest services are doing the job, right? They are the ones that are fully responsible and own this, right, for the day. And people think that, and I think that part of the reason that this doesn't spread throughout it is that they don't add that layer of leadership, right? You have the director of golf who's nowhere to be found, or is giving lessons or in the office, right? Then there's the head pro that's doing whatever they do, right? And then they have entry-level clerks, right? Where we develop managers on duty and lead sales and service specialists. And if they want to be called head golf professionals, they can, but they are fully responsible for everything that happens there. And they're in the middle of it. They're not doing it from their office.
Yeah. And what I think that you'll learn, because, I've seen it firsthand where in the past we had, I'd worked in companies that didn't have this sort of structure. They had more of the traditional thing, like you said, where people grow, they rise, they become disengaged. But what I've seen that's been awesome at Dobson, and I know Mikey does down at PBN, is, when you are there, you're next to the people, they get to see what you do. They get to see it's really not that hard. And then they start to ask you questions. They become more engaged. They say, hey, Mikey, that was really cool. Why'd you ask that guy that question? Or, oh, wow, the way you handled that guy that was angry, turned his frown upside down, and, he actually left here happy, leaving us a good review. How'd you do that? And you just sort of naturally either show them and they pick up on it, because when you spend time with people, you pick up on their tendencies, or it makes ample opportunities for you to teach them and then eventually give them the skills to become a lead, whether it's in your company, if they move on, get a new internship for something, if they're in school or whatever it is. But that sort of growth comes a lot faster and a lot more organically when you're down there doing it kind of leading by example, as opposed to a manager leaving. You say, well, now I got this hole to fill. Who do I pluck up and drop them in? And maybe now they're not ready. You've never gone over these things with them. It's all fresh. Because we have that at Dobson. We talk a lot. We've mentioned Jacqueline and Chris plenty of times. Chris has been on and Jacqueline will be here soon enough. But we have the rest of the team, Sebastian, Jake, Elle, everybody in the shop. We have some of the youngest people down in the outside services, Colton, Logan, a lot of those kids that are out there. And they're constantly asking questions. They're constantly picking up on things. They're eager to learn. People want to be great and they want to make you proud. Yeah. And I think that that's another really important point is when, someone like Mikey is out there at PBN and he's hanging out and he's in a way friends with everybody there on his team. They want to make him proud more than if he was just a manager. They don't want to get in trouble. Yeah. And someone's a lot more motivated to make somebody proud than to just save their own hide, right?
Absolutely. Mikey, you've actually built a wonderful team, and I think it's the leadership that really makes a difference because you have very little turnover. And, all the three Florida properties, the revenues are through the roof for years now. And, you have a unique style, right? It's not conventional by any means. And you can't really teach it. I think it might be a genetic disorder almost, but, I'm just kidding. But, what is your secret, Mikey?
So I look at it as a difference, right? So there's training, which I'm terrible at, and that's way more on the technical side of necessarily like how to do things, whether it's work a point of sale or in the guest service area. So the training I do lack a little bit, but there's a big difference between training and development. I'm way more on the development stage, which is way more of a mindset. So a mindset of almost a pride of ownership. So when our starter is at the first tee, he actually owns the tee and he owns the guest experience when they get to the first tee. With the guest service guys, they have a pride of ownership with both, what the carts look like when the greeting, when the guests arrive, to actually taking good care of our guests, being proactive. And then, of course, the manager on duty who kind of has the full oversight to keep the accountability of everybody as an operations manager. So to develop a mindset of both pride of ownership, because not everybody's going to care or know as much as you do, but you pour into them. The more you pour into them and the more you get poured into you, which is cool. So you just develop those skills, and then empathy too. You know what? Not everybody's going to have a great day, whether or not it's inside or outside of the operations. I'm pretty in touch with everybody. So I genuinely take a care and an empathy with them. And then we just go ahead and actually let them know that we're going to go ahead and turn the music up and everything is going to work out the way it should. So let's just make sure everything that comes out of our mouths is positive, upbeat, and customer focused. So we're going to go ahead and make it the most fun place. The reality is you can have a great quality of life. You can actually make a fair living, at what you're doing. But the primary thing is as long as it's fun and as long as you look forward to showing up, then we can't wait to have you. The minute it stops being fun for you, it might be a time to look for something new. So the difference between development and training, big difference there. Mindset over the technical stuff. Break those two down, and then you can really develop some real winners.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see.
And I think one of the important points that you sort of touched on too is giving everybody, not as they start to take the pride of ownership, giving them also the freedom to make their own decisions and to know that Mikey has my back, because there's a million ways to skin a cat, but if the outside service guys are down there, they're working together, they've got a system that works for that pair, maybe not if someone else was paired up with them, whatever that day, it's okay. As long as customers are being attended to, the range is being kept nice and kept up with, the property looks nice and everything's in order, they're picking up trash with their downtime, whatever it is, it doesn't matter who's actually doing what. And if they get an angry customer and they just say, hey, sir, how can I make it up to you? And they do something, to know that Mikey or me or anyone at any of our properties are not going to come down on them and say, you gave the guy a free water because he was mad, or you gave him a rain check. Like, we don't do, to know that we have their back is the most important part, because then it makes the load on everybody a lot easier. That kind of, I think it was Jocko Willink talked about it in one of his books, the decentralized command. They used it in the Marines, but it really is important, because that operational leader we're talking about can have that freedom to just kind of oversee and touch and go and get intermixed with all the different areas, when they're not having to give a command over here, give direction over here, and every waking moment they're spending telling people what to do on different sides. So when people can take ownership and they can make their own decisions and know they have your support, it makes things run a lot smoother.
Absolutely. And you don't actually criticize or pound them if they make the wrong one.
Yeah.
Because we are episode 1, we're not saving lives here. So and I think that the biggest difference between the businesses that win and the businesses that lose are the ones that the leader of that particular day is actually touching, seeing, hearing, all of these things, right? They're actually in the middle of it, right? They're not doing it from an office. They're not doing it, virtually. They're actually in the middle of it doing it. And they actually know exactly everything that's happening on that property during that entire round of golf, because I think it's grossly overlooked, because, everybody does surveys, right? And you see back about what customers want, right? And some you can control, some you can't. But when it comes to staff friendliness, when it comes to pace of play, when it comes to a lot of different aspects that you can control, there's nothing in place to actually make it better, or hold anybody accountable. It's actually kind of makes me laugh that, and we talked about this before, that pace of play is a major issue, right? I hate playing slow, and you could sit in your office and you could say, I think everything's okay, right? But how do you know? But at our properties, the goal is, and what the expectation is, that there's going to be somebody there that we've trained and we've developed, and we actually understands the process, that can tell you at the 4-hole times and 9-hole times what we are on the tee. And then when we are behind on the tee, because stuff's going to happen. We are far from perfect. We make mistakes. Things happen. When you actually, the difference between not having a operational leader and having one is that when you fall 20 minutes behind a tee, or 30 minutes, things happen, right? Who knows what happened? That when they check in the golf shop, that you just don't check them in, say nothing, slide the receipt to them, let them go clobber the starter at the first tee. Yeah. Now you have a starter down there just getting screamed at because the guy rolled up, and now he's told for the first time, he walked by 10 other team members, and the first time he hears that they're 20 minutes behind is by the starter, who's already stressed out, right? Yeah. It takes a leader to step in and to actually to explain to the guests when they're checking in a very positive manner, and if they have to go check on other things, that he knows or she knows that the team is going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of the things to that same point that I couldn't believe, and this is kind of specific to out here, but in the summer when it gets really hot, obviously rounds tend to go down because people can't come outside after like 11 because it's sizzling, but I could not believe that every other golf course, it seems like, they get rid of their ranger, or what we call an LOD. And they just say, well, it's the summer, there's not that many golfers out there, so we'll let them fend for ourselves. Like, why would you guys do that? And I said, but we still have golfers. Because if you want to stand a fighting chance, you need to make sure it's still a good experience. If anything, it's hot, no one wants to be there. That's the most important time to make sure pace is good, because not only are they going to be mad at slow, they're also already boiling, so they're going to be really upset. And that goes back way to what we talked about before, where hacking people, to save the bottom line is just going to hurt you in the long run. They're basically accepting that it's the summertime, it's going to be our downtime, we're going to lose money, and we'll make it up in the winter.
Yeah. And to that point, like just on that example, is that if you're not that busy, but you still have an LOD, which I agree you should, you can actually, through some leadership, actually have them fill some divots. You could have them take food orders. You could have this person do other things rather than to sit under a tree, right? If you don't have a headset on, somebody that's your leader of the day in the golf shop, checking on them, they will do that. They'll be fishing for balls, right? But if you're going to have them out there, you could still make them productive.
Right.
So Mikey, you've seen a lot of change out there. The busier you get, how much, obviously the busier, which you guys always are. I mean, you've seen it, that's when you need it more than ever, right? With a daily leader out there to straighten things out.
Absolutely. I'm blessed with some amazing operational leaders here, along with some young people that are up and coming that are so into it. They want to make the golf business and the people business their career. And so they're just pouring it in, which is super cool. Also, with the paradigm mindset, and the fact that we pay people based on their performance, and because the types of things, whether it's praise or money still outweighs pretty much anything as far as even a praise. So, to actually make sure people are encouraged financially through incentives, bonuses, and other things as the golf course begins to, continue to flourish, make sure that those folks too, that are your key people, actually make a very fair living at it is huge, right? It's a huge motivator. The second part too, and why I think that people would honestly go to bat for me regardless of the situation, number one is they know I'd go to bat for them because I don't take sides. I think the worst thing that you can do as a leader is honestly side with people because everybody's perspective is different. And it's so funny. There's always two sides to the story. Everybody thinks that they're right. So when you actually either side with, the customer over the employee or the employee over the customer or the experience over. So when you take sides, you actually put yourself you kind of pigeonhole yourself into, why you do that. Instead, way more diplomatic, not taking sides, but actually finding resolve in the situation so that everybody can just shake hands and move forward from it, actually with a great attitude and a much different, and a much better perspective of it. So that I would implore anybody out there to just actually listen to both sides. Don't take sides, but understand that there's resolve in it, that you can find mutual ground.
Yeah. Well, that goes to our theory too, that, talk about the solution or the problem rather than the people, right? Because it gets personal. Once it gets personal, that's when it gets nasty and unproductive, right? So just focusing on what the issue is rather than, people's opinion of that, the people involved, I think is key too. And, a lot of this has changed too, because people, that maybe are traditional managers and, actually maybe refer to themselves as leaders, times have changed too. And we talked a lot about this in the millennial mindset, right? And I thought that was a very productive, and we've heard a lot of great feedback on it because it wasn't just bashing the new things. There's a lot of good things in it because a traditional leader uses force and fear. They walk in and things aren't perfect, even though you're doing 350 rounds, the range is packed, you know what I mean? Nobody can find a parking spot. Of course, the more people, the more chaos, it's not going to be perfect, right? So the manager walks in and on the way to his office and then sees that things aren't perfect and starts using force and fear, and then everybody clams up and doesn't do anything because it's safer not to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the using the force and fear thing has always been interesting to me because I never really experienced it in the workplace, but I did on the field with sports, right? We had coaches that no matter what you did, I'll never forget, he told us if you went 4 for 4, he hit 4 home runs and you had a runner on third and I gave you the sign to hit a sac fly, I'm still going to make you run laps. And I understand now what he was going for, right? Just holding people accountable, keeping them from being complacent, but it was almost, the wrong way. It teaches somebody, do as I say, not as, whatever, just because it worked doesn't matter. Yeah. When in reality, they should have been explaining that like, hey, we all have our part to play. There's always going to be different days. And like you said, you might walk in and maybe it's not the cleanest area by the pro pro shop. Yeah. But if they're busy, they haven't had a chance to breathe, eat, get a bottle of water, how are they supposed to blow out all the leaves and stuff, So understanding as a leader, the entire picture saves you from jumping down somebody's throat before you have what's been going on. Just like Mikey said, if you don't actually know the full picture and leaders do it all the time. They walk in, they scold somebody, and then, they might not even ever know what actually happened. But that employee knows it was totally right and there was a different situation than they realized. And it just causes that disconnect. So going into every day, looking to understand, looking around, trying to take in everything you can get and getting in tune with what's going on will help you coach, lead, and all those things too.
Yeah. When I go into the clubs, I actually like working in the golf shops. It actually is fun, but it is exhausting, and you see a lot of people. So if you're expecting perfect, you're in the wrong world, man. What you do the best, you keep smiling, you keep grinding, you keep making sure everybody's having a great time. But it's really not that easy, to make sure that on those types of days. And,
how hard was that for me to get over, man?
Oh, yeah.
it was like pulling teeth at first for me.
Yeah, no, it's not easy for sure. And, and I think a lot of times that, like in a business, like we talked about originally, is that people, as they move up, they always want to get to that office. So, it's not like we're discrediting, the administrative management side of it, and that the difference is they manage budgets, reports, inventory, processes, and things like that. There is a time and a place and a definite need for that. But I think that, especially if you're on a limited crew, and you are the person that's in charge, to walk in and actually just go to the office and actually during crunch time where your guest experience, your profitability, and your success is on the line, and you're in an office doing these other things, this busy work that you think is so important, I think it leads to failure. And, when we go into a property, and whether it's consulting or managing or anything like that, I love this line. If you want the ultimate kiss of death, the ultimate, when you walk in and say, hey, who is responsible to make sure that pace of play is good and that the tee is running smooth? And they say, well, all of us are. I can tell you this right now. When you get the answer, all of us are, that means none of them are. Yeah. Because they just point, I thought you were doing it. It doesn't mean that everybody can't participate in the process, but one person has to be responsible and own that particular day in the entire guest experience. Because it just tees it up for total dysfunction and pointing the finger. So I think that's a big thing too that you just can't do. I mean, Mike, imagine if you said just everyone is actually doing that.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, it's clear direction to each individual, what their role is, what their responsibility is. They check in to the operations manager of that day or the manager on duty, so that everybody is clear about it. Because the one thing that I cannot stand is actually when somebody says, yeah, it looks good out here. And I'm like, what does that mean? It looks good out there. Just actually specific 4-hole, 6-hole turn times, where we're at on the tee.
What about the spacing direction is great.
Yeah. It's 5.5 hours, but everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What about the 200 people that have to go?
Yeah, everybody's happy.
Jeez. Yeah, so that goes back to it, right? If it's an entry-level employee that's never got any training or development, actually called out and said, how we doing? And the guy that's fishing for balls or, like sitting under a tree said, everything's fine out here, spacing's good, and they're not accountable, they're not trained or developed, they're going to say, oh, great, you know what, everything's excellent out there, Chuck said, and it's just not the case. And, and when it comes to operational leadership too, that, we talked about it in several episodes, and when it comes to marketing, being an operational influencer, marketing, sales, we have a lot of ideas. I drum up a lot of them. Some are good, some are really bad, but you know what? I get it. But when it comes to launching a new product, a new idea, anything, right? Like we have the Top Tracer now, we have the new mats, we have new players cards programs. We keep evolving, right? Because you see, especially during this, pandemic, the whole scope of the business has changed, right? So we've evolved and quickly done certain things. So when it comes to executing and actually implementing these ideas, if you don't have an operational leader there, it is going to, no matter how good the idea is, it is going to fail.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the new turf at Dobson Ranch is a great example because we, no one else other than the people that were in on the initial discussion know, customers come in and ask, hey, are you ever going back to grass? Are you going to have a schedule? What days are you going to be here and there and all those things? And if we don't stand there and answer those questions first and explain to the team what's happening and they get to see us explain it and how we handle it with customers, we can never expect them to do it. And then what's going to happen is it's such a polarizing thing for people. Some people love grass, some people don't. Some people really like the turf, some people really don't care. And, it just opens up such a can of worms that if you can't be there showing the team what the proper response is, helping them kind of navigate those things, what typically will happen is someone complains, the team member throws up their, shrug, gives them the paradigm shrug, and then the person walks out thinking, well, even the employees inside don't like the turf or, whatever it is. And it just leads to this downward spiral if you're not there to lead by example.
Exactly. And, just on that simple issue right there is that, there's a perception of mats, right? These are not mats. This is state-of-the-art artificial turf that has 2 different lengths. You can put a tee in it, and it's the best solution to make everybody's experience better. We didn't do it to make more money. It cost tens of thousands of dollars to do. We did it because we knew that was the only way we could maintain any consistency in the experience. So, but it came down to the leadership, you and Chris and the team, explaining that to the customers, and that transition was way, way easier.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that when you launch new ideas and thoughts like that, and it just, if you don't communicate it, you don't lead direct, it can always fall flat. So, I listen to a lot of different things, a lot of great podcasts, a lot of great books on leadership. It's something I know, Drew, you're very into. Mikey, you enjoy it. And, the Extreme Ownership we just listened to recently. And, it really just comes down to one major thought. And it's that if you're going to be the leader in that particular day, you own it, right? Pointing fingers and actually blaming other people as a leader is a complete cowardly and for sure demise to your business.
Yeah, no. And it's amazing too. And one thing too, that you have to remember and keep in mind is there's always different levels that, people need in terms of how they are, expecting or want to be led. I learned a little bit about it in school when I took a class on leadership, but there's some people that like to be led and guided and given clear instructions so they have a list. And for them, it's like, well, if I do the list, I can't be in trouble, which is great. Then there's also some people who maybe have been in this business or any business and they are very confident in their ability. So if you are checking in with them, they can misinterpret it as like you're micromanaging them. So just helping them understand too that, hey, you know what, Johnny, I know you do a fantastic job when you're out there as an LOD. I'm still going to call you and ask for 4-hole times. I'm still going to check in with you because if I don't and something does go wrong, it's still my fault. Right. So don't think this is a knock on you, but I do have to check in. We're going to keep engaged. And, if you think to do it before I ask you, then I won't even have to ask if you're constantly checking in with me. And so understanding that people all want to be treated differently in terms of being led or leadership or whatever it is, can also help big time, because we've definitely had tension where you call out to the guy every 15, 20 minutes, ask where he's at on the course, ask for a 4-hole time, check in to see if that group that fell behind had moved back out. And you can hear in their voice, they're like, dude, get off my back. Like, shut up. I got it. And they just have to understand that we can't accept silence as everything's okay, because we'd be remiss. It'd be our fault, if everything falls apart. Yeah.
And I think where you get a lot of credit on that too is, as a leader, and this is another thing that I find very negative about the golf business and a lot of operations, that there's things that aren't going to be perfect. There's customers out there that have been drinking, or they're just slow, or they're indignant and they're actually rude, or things happen, right? And then they send it and they put this, to solve this, they put it into an entry-level person's hands that does not want to be in the golf business. They might be great employees based on what their job title and responsibilities are, but they leave it up to them. Right. And it's completely unfair, right? Because you know what, if you're in the business and you want to grow and you lead, to have a leader go say, hey, I got this, you know what I mean? Thank you. You've done amazing. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. Those people right now would absolutely kill for you. Right? Because they don't want to. They don't want to because it's really hard, because you're going to go, you're either going to get yelled at, you're going to lose your cool, you say something back you didn't want to say. But when somebody steps up, the daily operational leader, to go and take care of that, it's amazing. Because, in a lot of the books I've read, they actually talk about the different types of managers. And this was the best summary of it that I've ever heard. There's the leader that makes things happen. That's what we're talking about. There's the one that watches things happen, right? Those are the ones that actually really don't do anything about it. They see it, right? And then the third one is they say, what happened? Right? You know what I mean? They didn't even acknowledge any of it. They didn't even know what happened, right? We walked into golf courses and, we look at their reviews before we get in there and they're horrendous, and you kind of bring it up to them and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the type of leadership and management that you're going to for surely fail.
No doubt. And especially in an industry where things haven't changed all that great or evolved all that fast over the last 40 years. It seems like the golf business is just stuck in a status quo, which is ridiculous if you compare it to any other industry out there. And so I think a real key to leadership is always striving to make things better, whether it's more efficient, whether it's more fun, whatever it might be, always striving to make things better. And secondly, too, like the key is, I believe, is that, push all in on one or two ideas and really go full throttle on them. I think, and this is where, like, if you just take a look at whether it's Apple or Samsung, you look at their latest commercials, like they just push in on that one little thing that separates them from others, and they push all in on that. They don't try to encompass a million different things and just half-ass it on a million different ideas. They push all in on that one or two that's definitely going to separate you and make it better.
Absolutely. And we're still in the pandemic, and I think that leadership has never been so necessary because you also have, the business side, and most golf courses have gotten a little bump, through it, and some haven't, depending what market you're in. But there's things that you have to do from safety. You have to do it, and you have to be there. And if you're not involved, if you're one of those managers that watch what's happened or says what happens, right? Somebody can get sick, you can get your business shut down. And so just as far as leadership, and you have to be in the middle of it. You can't do it remotely, and you can't do it just not caring because you're looking at some report, right? It just doesn't work. So we're going to take a little break, and we're going to go ahead and play Mikey's song that actually puts a very positive and kind of cute spin on what's going on in the golf business right now. So you enjoy the video, and we'll be back, and we're going to play Would You Rather.
Let's hit the golf course, no better way. The social distance, the way we play. These new rules, 6 feet apart. Riding solo in my own golf ball. I don't mind, kinda nice. No one around to see me fix my life. Slide on in and drive straight to the ball. Don't have to hear my buddy's wife's phone call all day long. All you have to do is hit the cup. Don't sweat that 6-foot putt, just pick it up when you hit the cup. Can't find a water cooler anywhere, and that's alright. With Apple Pay, I had the Parker catapult me a cold Bud Light on the night. Breaking a bunker is a thing of the past. Pick it out of the footprint and lay it on the grass. Keep the flag in the hole like Adam Scott and DeChambeau. These two got my scores and never been so cool. Thinking about going pro. All you have to do is hit the cup. Don't sweat that 6-foot putt, just pick it up. When you hit the cup, just pick it up.
Welcome back, everyone. Time to play a little game, guys. You fired up here?
Oh, we're ready.
Cool. We're going to go with a very sophisticated game that takes amazing intelligence. I learned it from my 8-year-old. We're going to play
Grayson.
Yes. Would you rather? Drew, you've heard it. You've played it before. Yeah.
When you play with Grayson, though, everything has to do with sleeping with spiders.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's usually a pretty easy answer.
It is. Yeah. This one's going to be a little more difficult. Let me explain. I know it's not part of the game. I'm supposed to just shoot it out there. But
Yeah, I know.
For context, I really want to explain really what it entails, right? So I'm going to do Drew first, right? Okay. Would you rather give Bailey, your live-in girlfriend, my daughter, a 90-minute golf lesson every day for 60 days, and you have to eat it. You know what I mean? When it's all your fault.
No days off either, 60 straight?
60 straight, 90 minutes, golf lesson. And you can't control her mood. It's the roll of the dice, right? And she doesn't really like golf too, so you're going to have to force her for these lessons, okay?
Yeah.
Or, but listen to this one out, caddy for Bryson DeChambeau for 36 holes a day for 1 month. And before you answer that, Bryson DeChambeau, even though he's cool and really good, he is one of the slowest players on tour. You're going to have to calculate a lot of crap because he's a physics guy. You're going to have to, like you pull, you guess, you get out, like you just look eyeballing it, you know what I mean? Saying, I don't know, it's about 225, I don't know, maybe 240. Isn't going to work. You have to actually be good at it.
Yeah.
So what are you going with?
I'm going to go with caddying for Bryson. One, because I don't have to go home and listen to him be angry once I give him all the misreads. And I think in the moment I can sell my reads well enough to him that even if I don't actually know what I'm talking about, I could get him to buy into it.
I disagree with the last part. I like your answer, but you are not going to get him to buy in.
You never know. We'll see.
I don't think anybody could though, because he's pretty scientific. I mean, he has a formula.
Yeah.
But no, it makes
We'll
sense.
see.
I get it. Yeah. You also get in good shape.
Yeah, exactly. Lots
And
of
I-
walking. Get my steps in.
Totally understand about not eating it 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Get that totally. All right,
Hey, do
Mikey.
you have to carry a staff bag? 'Cause
Staff bag, yeah.
That's a whole different
I don't
story.
even know
if
what
you
a
gotta
staff
carry
bag
staff
is.
That's a real
That's a
big
big
one.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sure, I'll carry a staff
Yeah, Drew's a
bag.
big guy
Whatever.
though. He's young. He's 26,
Yeah.
man. He could do it. All right, Mikey. All right. Now listen closely, right? Would you rather go to a 12-hour PGA seminar on club repair, where actually at the end of it, you'd have to do some of the things like re-whip a club and stuff like that, which would mean you'd have to pay attention. You couldn't sleep or anything, right? Or roof homes in South Florida for 12 hours in August. And I'm saying this not to be weird, but it's just because Mikey has that alabaster skin. You have to do it with your shirt off too. And no breaks.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, talking lobster.
That's impossible, actually. That is humanly impossible. And for the record, I had a guest service guy, Troy, who actually left this job to get a roofing job, thinking he was going to be a salesman. But they actually put him on a roof, and he called me 2 days later to say, Mikey, you still got that job, bro?
Oh, man.
That's with the shirt on. So as much as it would be dreadful, I would have to do the 12-hour PGA dink freaking club regripping / equipment
Seminar.
fixing
I
seminar.
gotta
I
ask.
don't know. It's impossible.
What does re-whip a club mean?
I have a flashback because that's where you had the persimmon woods and you had to re-whip it, like put the string around it to actually redo it. And when I was going through which I eventually failed out of, the PGA classes, whatever, you had to do that. And they thought I was a smart ass when I said, why don't you just sell them one of those new Callaways, man? Those things are flying off the shelf. You know what I mean? It makes their game better. It's way easier. And the guy looked at me like, you're not meant for this program. And I'm like, kind of agree.
Yeah.
But so there you have it. Actually,
Plus, the key to Mikey's question is you didn't specify he has to pass, just that he had to try to do it. So he could still sleep his way through the class.
yeah.
There's your out, Mikey.
Yeah, no doubt. Passing would have been an impossibility, so I didn't. That's why I didn't put it in there. But
Yeah.
But anyway, thank
That
you,
is
Drew.
hilarious.
Thank you, Mikey. Great episode, and everybody, we look forward to having you back next week. We'll have another amazing topic. See you next week.
Glad
Thank
to
you.
be. Hope we made you smile.
From the T to the green, and the P to the B. Skip the plumb bob, chop the plumb bob, lose the plumb bob. Who needs a plumb bob? From the T to the green, and the P to the B.